Welcome back, my YouTube family. I hope you guys are all doing well. Today I have a special guest I'm interviewing. His name is Peter J. Law. He's a Marine Corps veteran. He recently graduated from Temple University with a bachelor's degree in psychology. And he is a wonderful strength performance coach that likes to tie in the mental aspect of training and pushing yourself within his coaching to make it more individualized, to make it better. And because of that, and because of the importance of our mentality when it comes to training and bettering ourselves, whether it is for sport or our influence on our life as a whole, I really thought it was going to be very beneficial to bring him on and give a bit of an expertise of his experience, background, and really how he trains and how he coaches with bringing that mental aspect to our physical and spiritual being in training. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoy the interview. If you want to see more videos like this, please like, subscribe, comment down below, and I appreciate it. Let's get to it. A lot of it is just going apeshit in the gym. It is what it is.
Fuck yeah.
So I had surgeries on my elbow and my knees, and people would put these limiting, it's almost like, we're going to try here, but if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I had a very positive mindset. I had a very determined mindset to kind of get back into it. So, I've squatted over 700 pounds. I've benched over 500 pounds after someone told me that I would never be able to, do anything elite with these injuries that I've overcome. So with that, when I hear athletes or something like that talk about maybe an injury that has popped up, or maybe they're online and I'm not trying to take anything away from anyone, but maybe they're talking about how difficult something is, and the reason they're not progressing is because how difficult their life circumstances is at that moment, which obviously I feel for the person. But for some reason, I'm just kind of like, why would you even choose to think that way? Let's say, easiest example would be an injury. So my right knee, for past 2-3 years, I've had pretty bad tendonitis, and I was going to PT, and I got PRP done in it, and I was obsessed with this idea that my knee had to feel 100%, and I actually just started to feel worse, and it was very painful. And I was without realizing, putting this self-limiting belief on me about my knee, and then eventually I was like, fuck it. I'm tired of doing these PT exercises that don't work, and I want to, I don't want to be obsessive about this thing. So I took my obsession over making sure my knee is good so I can squat more weight. I just kind of took a step back from that. And I just focused on doing the things I loved. And my knee feels as better as it's ever been, just because I took that kind of idea away. Where was I going with this? But yeah, I don't know, just being a little bit more positive mindset, protecting my mentality behind my training and my lifestyle.
Dude, I mean, what you tell yourself is what will happen. That's what I think.
Yeah.
At least, I mean, now that you explain it a little more, I see that too a lot in a lot of posts or from people I know that have taught about whatever it is. And yeah, dude, if you're gonna sit there and this might come across as harsh, but if you're gonna sit there and worry about that kind of stuff, and that's what you're giving your full attention to, then that's what's gonna come to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of what you can make out of a situation. I mean, dude, I'm sure you've seen some pretty badass people that have maybe had some gnarly injury in a powerlifting meet or whatever it is.
Just in life.
And yeah, exactly, in life. And I know a few people that have they've suffered nasty injuries where it's there's no way they're going to be able to ever maybe lift the certain amount of weight they can ever lift again. But that doesn't stop them from maybe training still in a certain way and kind of approaching it this is the card I'm dealt, so I'm going to fucking run with it.
Yeah.
And I think that really, that aspect really comes down to as hard as it is, and it's very fucking tough to kind of come to terms with this, but just realizing the stuff you can't control, you will never be able to control as much as you want to, and you need to try to, in the most of your ability, to just fucking discard it.
Yeah.
And you need to take accountability and responsibility for everything that you can't control, which, like for your example, was your attitude and your approach and your kind of, I guess you could say, like your ability to adapt, right? And your ability to have that, I guess you could say, that drive to be like, well, you know what, like fuck this, like PT's not working, so I'm just gonna like try this and see what happens, and like just being able to like put your foot down and just be able to carry on with it, with whatever it is.
Have you had similar experiences in your own life or with other clients and athletes that you coach?
I mean, I'd say like personally maybe like thankfully I've never had any like super gnarly injuries. Like I've had like some injuries like in the military that like still kind of affect me to this day, where like I have to like mitigate. It is what it is, but like on those days, for example, like I have a pretty, as everyone else in the fucking world does, have a pretty shitty lower back, right? So like some days like it really fires up. I'm like, dude, there's no way I'm doing X, Y, and Z today. But instead of sitting there and being like, hey, like, oh well, fuck it, I'm just gonna like go to the gym and like lift light or whatever, like just do like a barbell for squat instead of like whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Instead of that, it's like, okay, well, how about I look at this and kind of see what can mimic that movement quality of like a squat and see what I can push.
Yeah.
It might not be the best replacement. It might be like a I don't know, like an externally stabilized like pendulum squat like to a box. Is that like the greatest replacement for a raw barbell squat? Like maybe not, but like if that's what I can get the most out of, then that's what I'm gonna get the most out of. Like I'm not gonna sit there and just be like, oh well, I guess I'm just gonna do fucking like bird dogs or whatever. Like, and you know what, dude? Like, this could be a whole other podcast, but that like a lot of the physical therapy things I've seen, and like just so many people I know. It's not even for me, but a lot of people I know that have like gone through like, and this isn't me shitting on physical therapists, so I'm sorry if anyone's listening, but I personally can recall so many people I know personally that have like gone through a lot of these procedures, and it's funny enough how the more you treat your body as fragile, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy almost. And like, again, that whole like aspect of like anti-fragility, it's not just physical, but it's mental also. It's like, okay, so like maybe the experiences or the shit I've gone through, instead of letting that me define who I am and like limiting my beliefs, I'm going to use that to get even stronger and better from those experiences or that pain or whatever it is. But
you almost are how you see yourself a bit. If you see yourself as weak, then you're probably weak. Yeah. Strong, you're probably strong. Another awesome post, I like yours. You said something about negative visualization. Also, are we good on time?
Yeah, no. Right.
So you were talking about negative visualization, and you were talking about seeing yourself kind of down this negative path and like doing the opposite of that. Can you touch a little bit more on negative visualization versus positive, and if you use kind of that visualization yourself or for your athletes?
I think with negative visualization, so the common term for like negative visualization is it's an old like Stoic thought where it's like, it's kind of this basis of like, you should take time to like appreciate the things in your life because like nothing's permanent and everything will like diminish sooner or later. So like, for example, our let's say physical capability to do things, like it's awesome and it's not going to last forever, so we should take time to cherish that. And while I do agree with that, like the way I look at negative visualization is a little different, where it's like I look at everything that you don't want to do and kind of using that as motivation. And I know motivation is like kind of a cheap word, but I think the reason negative visualization and in terms of what you do not want your life to look like and what you absolutely don't want to succumb to, the reason I think that's a lot more powerful than like just manifesting like whatever the fuck you want, like a lot of these like spiritual life coaches like preaching about
the rocks.
I think the reason the reason like that negative visualization is so powerful is because I think the biggest motivator in life is on the pain and pleasure spectrum. And at least in my experience, I think pain is a far greater motivation than pleasure is. So I think pleasure to me, at least, it can be, and this is very theoretical, but just for the general sake of the conversation, I think in most cases, pleasure is something that we're in a state of most of the time, and a lot of time we take granted, right? And then when you are in a state of pain, you try, for most people at least, unless you're a sociopath, you try in all your power to not be in that state. So to me, the reason I look at negative visualization and why it's so like motivating to me, and the reason it works for me, is because it's something that I do not want to live, and it's something I do not want to fall down to and succumb to. And I just think in general, I think pain is a lot more, it's something that we do not want to like be involved with at all.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be like physical pain. It could be anything, like let's say in the gym, for example, right? Like how many clients or how many people in the gym do you know that, like, let's say some kid at the gym, like he loves his fucking preacher curls, right? He's gonna do all the preacher curls in the world because it brings him pleasure. It's that feedback of like, oh yeah, like you rock at this exercise. But God, does this dude does he hate doing barbell lunges? So the minute something happens in the gym where like maybe there's no barbells available for his lunges, what do you think he's gonna do?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I guess I'm fucking skipping lunges today, right? But with his preacher curl, he's gonna fight tooth and fucking nail to get that goddamn easy bar to do the preacher curls. Yeah. So I think and like what I'm trying to get at there is like, if it's something painful, like you will try and do everything in your power to get away from that. And then if it's pleasurable, you'll do anything to try and to gravitate towards that.
Yeah. But I think this might be kind of what you were talking about a little bit, but maybe more in kind of a mental mind state thing. Sometimes, like, let's say, I don't know, maybe like a classical example, like you were bullied as a kid for being fat. So now every time you go to the gym, you just think about how you were bullied as a kid for being fat. So you're just working off that negative fuel to do your workout. Do you think that can last for your entire life? Do you think that's healthy to be kind of always using kind of this negative fuel? Or is it more of at some point you have to kind of also bring in that positive side of things, that positive, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think at some point it could naturally fall into like a more like, I mean, I would argue most people that start training in the gym is probably because of some painful experience.
Negative, yeah.
Or, you know what I mean? Like, it could be like, someone was fat, or they didn't like the way their body looked. They were fucking weak, whatever it is, right? And again, they're trying to get away from that as far as possible. And then as they are on this pursuit of like getting stronger and like getting maybe leaner, having better body composition, higher levels of preparedness or like physical literacy, whatever it is, I think that pain has then turned more into pleasure, because you see like, oh shit, like this is how attainable is this?
Yeah, it's almost just kind of like a natural evolution of things, probably, for a lot of people. Let's go to the next one. Self-talk and inner dialogue. As an athlete myself, it's funny, when I was actually in middle school and like high school, I'm not going to self-diagnose myself, but like I exhibited symptoms of like OCD big time. I was afraid if I didn't do this thing that something bad was going to happen. So I would do the thing, then it would be okay, and then I would do the thing again. And per my research, it looked like OCD. I could, I'm not going to diagnose myself, but it was there was some definite mental block going with that, and with that was kind of probably some negative self-talk. I mean, as I grew up, kind of grew out of that, got more confident in myself, got more confident in my abilities. I've noticed that sometimes like that my self-image, but my self-inner dialogue has been a huge help in me actually being able to do the thing. Versus like, if I'm doing reps, I'm like, oh shit, I can't do this anymore. I'm not gonna get it. If I'm like, fuck it, one more, and then I'm gonna usually get it. On what you were saying, I think on one of your posts, how do you implement self-dialogue, inner dialogue, self-talk yourself for your athletes? Have you noticed, has it been a big thing you've touched on yourself or not too much?
I think for everyone it could be a little different because for some people I work with, like they need that kind of that push where it's like, hey, like, you know, don't overthink it, everything's fine, like, you know, like positive thoughts kind of thing. And then some people actually I find respond better to like, okay, like you're fucking weak.
Yeah.
Like you're being soft right now, like pick it up a little bit. And then some people, and I've noticed this with myself too, it's weird where it's like when I'm about to do something like maybe relatively challenging in the gym or whatever it is, I try to almost turn off all forms of like self-talk in a sense. And I literally just try to be in the moment as much as I can and just try to think about anything. For me, at least, how I've approached it is if I have like a heavy set or whatever it is, like in the gym, or like if some other like, you know, endeavor, like whatever it is, right? I found that like that positive self-talk has helped, but I frame it for me in a sense where it's like, all right, like just like all in on the moment, like don't have to think about, don't overthink it, like literally just like turn your brain off and do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think for me that's helped because it's helped me focus more on like the task at hand, on what's going on. And you find like a lot of times, at least for me, when you don't overthink it, it's really so simple. It's either like you have it or you don't.
Yeah.
So like, and the way I like to like frame this and the way I've done it with myself is like, when I like recall back to these experiences of like maybe like a really challenging like set or like a really like balls to the wall, like 100-meter sprint or whatever, right? Like when I was more focused on like telling myself like to stay positive or like whatever it is, and like it was like for me it led to me overthinking more, and then it led to me to like not being in tune with like whatever is going on at the time, in the present moment of whatever it is I'm doing. But I found that like when I just turn my brain off, but also like just completely like you're in the moment, you're not thinking about anything else. It's really just a simple matter of you can either do it or like you can't.
Yeah.
And I found that with like I remember one time like it was like a top set single I had like I don't know, maybe like a year ago, 2 years ago when I was like powerlifting, for example. And a lot of people, you know, like a lot of people for their top set, like their top single, whatever, like they're like stimming themselves to fuck up with like a bunch of music and like they're doing all this crazy shit. And for me, and that's fine. For some people that does work. But for me, I was like, you know what? Like no fucking music. Like literally just go under there and do it. Yeah. And like and like you kind of realize there's this weird space when you get to that point, at least for me, where it's like you just simply have it or you don't. And if you don't get it, it's one of the two things. It's either you're not good enough or it's a lack of effort. And that's a conversation you need to have with yourself as far as like, you know, how honest are you with your effort? Is there a reason you can't give enough effort? Because it sounds a lot easier said than done. And like, it's very like, it's spouted so much like in, you know, the strength and conditioning world, fitness world, whatever, but like effort is something that like literally everyone can do. It's just a matter of like getting yourself to that threshold of like, okay, like exerting this amount of effort, like it may seem daunting, but then it's really not. Yeah. And I think it gets to a point where you have to almost train yourself mentally to that point where it's like you need to know what that effort feels like. Yeah. And then once you know what like true RPE 10 effort feels like, then it's like, well, what do you have to be scared about?
So you're saying take everything to failure?
Yes. The volume's overrated. But no, I think at least for me, not to get like too carried away with it, but I think it really comes down to like, for at least me personally, it's knowing one what you respond best to, and then two, like for my instance at least, because I find that I do best when I don't think about anything and I'm just like, all right, just do it. Like instead of me just like a lot of people like before they do their top set of whatever it is, they might like look at the barbell they might like look at the bar that's at the weight that's loaded, and they kind of like right there they suck themselves out. You're already thinking too much. Yeah. Where I find that the best case is literally just like it's just don't even think about it and just be like, all right, well, I'm just gonna fucking send it. Yeah. And again, I think it's a lot easier said than done though. That's a skill that you need to get. That perceived like full effort is something you need to get like better at. Yeah, and that's fine.
Being able to kind of, would you say, almost enter a flow state?
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, I think, and again, everyone to get into that flow state, everyone's different, right? Like, I remember like for the last meet I did, like by far my best meet too for powerlifting at least. I didn't listen to a single song the whole fucking meet, because I realized like in the meets prior to that I was like, no, if I listen to like too much music, I'm like there's like too much arousal. I like suck myself up too much. But if I'm just all in the present moment and I'm just like just taking things as they come and go, I found that I perform a lot better. I don't know why that is. Yeah. And again, that's you having to kind of, I guess you could call it like self-discovery. Yeah. But kind of figuring out like what works for you, and then kind of what brings that best maybe competitor out. Yeah. In a sense.
Absolutely. Well, there is that the arousal curve.
Yeah, for sure.
Which I think for someone like me, as far as powerlifting goes, it's not that hard. Like, it's not that complex, I should say.
Yeah, I'd say so too.
So you can probably be a bit more aroused than something like chess, as far as entering that flow state. But then again, it also always depends on that person. Mm-hmm. I definitely do very well with like hyping myself up before a lift. But like my girlfriend's brother, he's competed in powerlifting a couple times. He's always like zen. Super zen. So like he just needs to come up a little bit, and then he's like in that perfect zone, which is pretty interesting.
Because I think it's the biggest takeaway from that, at least for me, is like taking that time to discover what it is. Because I've seen a lot of, and I'm sure you've seen this too, like because I know I've seen you at a lot of fucking meets, like handling people. Like how many times have you seen someone like they're just like through the fucking roof, like just like stimming themselves to fuck up on like whatever it is, and then they bomb the meet. It's like, all right, dude. Well, if this hasn't worked the first 6 times, then maybe you need to change your approach a little bit. But again, I think that comes down to like just knowing how you respond to that like that high stimulus environment, and then like seeing how you respond best to it. Yeah. And what gets you in that state of like the best execution.
I think that's probably the most difficult part, though, is finding that flow state and how to get into it.
Yeah, and it's through repetition. You know? And I think that's at least for me that it's a big part in in training, for example, where it's like I've talked about this not too long ago, where like again like people are so in their like, let's say they're peaking for a meet or like whatever it is, like an event. And they need to have like the perfect song playing in their headphones for this top set single, and they need to have like everyone. I don't know, like they have to wait until like a very specific time. That like they're very like peculiar with like these certain constraints, but then it's like, dude, like not that the environmental constraints of a meet is super sporadic by any means, but like stuff could happen, right? Like there's plenty of times where like I took like a third attempt. And there's no fucking music playing, and it was like awkward. What am I gonna do? Just be like, I'm gonna wait.
Oh wait, hold on, guys.
No, like that's. And I think you have to learn to like, I guess, be adaptable, but also learn that like at the end of the day, it's really how you are able to like adapt within yourself to that specific stimulus or that specific, I guess like. What's going on in that given environment in that given time.
I think it brings up an interesting point because, like you saw my outdoor gym, which is obviously, as far as lifting the most amount of weight, not optimal. Yeah. It's outside, the sun's beating on you. Sometimes a bird flies over and shits on you. So it's like, but for some reason, I kind of like training with like suboptimal access to equipment, and I feel like you can get maximal gains from doing so because you're just forced to think, and you're almost putting yourself in circumstances where if anything ever happens, you'll be good to go. One meet I did, it was it's called a Be About It meet. Basically, it was in a CrossFit box, and it was hot as hell in there, and everybody was sweating, and everybody was missing lifts, and I wasn't training a lot outside at the time, but I could easily see how if I was training outside all summer long and then I went and did this meet, it would have been nothing because I was used to these suboptimal conditions. I still won the meet, so that was nice. But yeah, I think, and then what you said too is like the music has to be at the right point. I have to have my pre-workout at this time. And sometimes I look at that stuff, I'm like, dude, that's kind of, first off, not the point of what we're trying to do here. We're trying to be as strong as possible. If you need all these other things in order for you to do that. And then two is like kind of weak. You know, it's kind of, I don't know. It's not as inspiring.
I think that places constraints within yourself.
Yes.
Because then it's like, well, okay, like I need to have this in order and this in order. If not, then everything's fucked. Like how many times, and this brings up a good point for me too, where it's like, maybe like 2 years ago, like if I didn't have my headphones for the gym, I was like, oh, like I'm fucked. Fuck me, whatever.
Yeah.
But now I've gotten so used to the point where I don't train with like any music at all. Where it's like I actually prefer not train with any kind of music at all.
Yeah.
And again, I think that's just. I'm not saying like if there is music, like I'm like, oh, I fucking turn it off.
Yeah,
but you know what I'm saying? Like I've gotten to a point where like I'm not so attached to these.
You don't need it.
Yeah, to these things that like. It's like if I don't have them, if I don't have access to them, it's gonna fuck my whole performance up.
I think too that kind of probably comes with experience. I think there's like everyone's on their journeys. Like in the beginning, it's almost like anything is good enough, and you're gonna find some way to grow from it. And then, as you get more into it, and you realize like you hear other people talk about like this one thing will help you do this, you almost put too much attachment and too much. Necessity to these things that are really not needed, right? Like, oh, you missed your daily scoop of creatine? Fuck, everything's fucked.
Yeah.
It's not the case.
I think it's a lot of that, and I was having a conversation about this the other day, it's like that whole like all or nothing mentality. Yeah. And what I mean by that is like, it's like, oh, like if I can't get like the perfect workout in, if I can't get all my, if I can't get all the required exercises in, then like, oh, everything's fucked.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Where it's like people might come into the gym where it's like, oh, like if you're at a packed gym or something and all the combos or whatever is taken, and it's like, oh, I have to like wait X amount of minutes. Oh, my workout's fucked. But it's like, no, dude, like if you can, like if you're able to, if you have the time, like, especially on a day that's like not super specific, for example, like you can get away with like maybe doing like 2 or 3 accessory sets and then going into your main movement.
Yeah.
And like for one day, it's not that fucking deep.
Yeah. Or use the power rack.
Yeah, or use the power. Don't even start with that. Like I anytime I go to Powerbuild now, I specifically try my hardest to not use a combo.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I'm not powerlifting, so I'll give it to whoever.
Yeah.
And it's weird because like there's so many people that have like been like, you sure you don't want to use this? I'm like, no, because someone else is probably going to use it. It's like, I look at it because like, dude, I don't really give a shit. Like, I'm just if I'm not competing on a combo rack anytime soon. I'm literally over here just trying to get like some sort of stimulus in.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just funny like looking at that. It's like, dude, like it's a power rack is good enough for me, man. Like it's, where is this weird fucking, like, what would you call it? Like that weird effect of like, oh, like it's like, I need this combo rack or else like
the world's gonna end.
Yeah, it's just, again, it's that weird like all or nothing and like lack of like being able to adapt thing. I think I think for a lot of people it like fucks them over more than they realize.
Yes. Yeah, being able to adapt. Sometimes I think about that too. Like, and again, I have to be able to put myself into someone who's not as experienced, because like when you're in the gym for only like maybe 2-3 years max. It's hard to kind of figure shit out. But I've been training for like 10 plus years since I was in middle school, and you start to figure things out like, oh, this piece of equipment's is broken. All right, what muscles? What is the movement action? All right, this is a good substitute. Mm-hmm. Instead of being like, fuck, well now I can't do my workout. Mm-hmm. Or I don't know. Or another thing too is like you forget your knee sleeves or you forget your belt, or you do something like that. Are you seriously going to be like, well now my whole workout's fucked? or you just kind of muster up and keep going with it.
And even if it's some intensity or whatever that you're not, that maybe you wouldn't get with a belt and knee sleeves, and like, so be it. But then at the same time, that's literally the whole point of RPE.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, I don't know, whatever. But.
That's funny. All right, man. Well, that's it. At least all I got for you. Where can people find you?
So my Instagram is PeterJLaw_, and I'm not really on anything else right now.
You have a website?
I do. It's PeterJLaw.com.
Awesome.
And other than that, I don't really have any other socials. Like I've been thinking about getting on YouTube a little bit. We'll see. Other than that, that's all I'm really on. So I'm always open for conversation. I'm always open for debate. I think that's a thing that's kind of missing in the fitness world, where it's like people are, and to each their own. But I think people are very quick to shit on different ideas, but then not really have, I don't want to say maturity, but like maybe not have like that kind of mindset where it's like, okay, like, well, why is this? Let me talk to this person and see what they're thinking.
Yeah.
Obviously there's some things that like anything you see from functional patterns. Yes, this is a deliberate blow to functional patterns.
That's funny.
Besides that, you can a lot of things I think we can debate on. But yeah, like I said, I'm always open for conversation on there. Like I actually like, I have conversations with people on there a lot that like I might have opposing views to, and like sometimes they kind of school me. I'm like, oh well, I just got completely fucked in this conversation, but I learned something.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I'm always open to conversation on there. But
yeah, I think that's I have no problem admitting when I'm wrong, but sometimes too, then like the person who's right, you can tell they got like this smug of arrogance. You're like, relax, guy.
The worst is when and this is a kind of referring back to that point where it's like I have no problem with like people espousing their original ideas, on Instagram. Like maybe you might disagree with it, but like it's out there and it is what it is. Like you can agree with it or you can disagree with it, whatever. But like it's happened so many times where like I'll see people. Like I'll see like mutual people I know, like in the community, like the area. They might, and this has happened to someone I know, where they post something, and then a bunch of people get triggered, and instead of maybe reaching out to a person and be like, hey, like I don't really agree with you on this, they post it on their close friend story.
Oh yeah.
And then they, and funny. You know what? Like if that's who you are, then so be it. But I think it's more beneficial to maybe be like, reach out to that person and be like, oh, hey, like, I don't really understand your thinking behind this.
Especially if you know the person.
If you know the person, it's just
or
like,
within the same realm, like the same community.
Yeah, and it's just like, dude, like to me, it's just childish.
Yeah. But it's funny. I think social media, and obviously, I want to push the Instagram. I want to push the YouTube. A couple things, probably selfishly, I want recognition. But more than that is like I want to like grow my business. I want to provide the service that I find so special and that I know I can do really well. Mm-hmm. So with that, I kind of feel like I need to grow the social media. But then the other part of me is like, I really hate this. Like it really sucks. If it's not stupid arguments online with people whose opinions, like if I see someone quarter squatting in the gym, I think it's a very childish thing to do to automatically assume that person has no clue what they're doing or anything like that. They could be doing that for a very good reason. Maybe they like squatting, but they physically can't go any lower without immense pain, you know? Where you can go up and ask the person instead of just like berating them or making fun of them. Or you see that a lot. Yeah. Someone who doesn't hit exactly parallel every squat, they're like, well,
yeah,
or below parallel every time. They hit parallel, and then people get upset about that. Or they do this weird thing before they go into a lift where it's not optimal, and then people get upset about that. It's just whatever. But that's the world we live in.
Dude, I don't want to draw this on too long, but I just like I know like I've been seeing like some stuff on Instagram recently where like I'm a little more like removed from the powerlifting world now, and man, there's like there's a lot of petty bullshit that goes on in that community. But anyway, all I'm gonna say is like, I saw recently there's a lot of beef between like IPF and like untested, and like, I don't know. Again, it's just funny that like there's so much, like you were saying, like someone might have not like squatted like ass to grass or something, and like people are quick to be like, oh, that was 2 white lights, whatever, like 2 red lights, whatever. Yeah. He's like, all right, dude, how about you go on the fucking bar and squat 800 fucking pounds?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I don't know. Like, I just feel like people are so quick to like place a judgment on something instead of sitting back and be like, oh, that was actually like pretty fucking impressive. Like, okay, like, yeah, it wasn't like the ollie fucking ass to grass squat, but like, it's still like nonetheless impressive.
Yeah, you know, just I think like, relax, dude.
Yeah, like I just think it's funny. I think when people do that, like they're very projective of like that shit. I think it, you know, and not just in lifting, but really in life in general. Like, I mean, how many people you see on like social media with other aspects that are like quick to like shit on whatever it is? I think that's a pretty clear indicator that like those people are projecting that like they have their own like insecurities and like their own problems in life, where it's like you kind of look. It's very easy to be on the other side of that and get mad at it, but then at the same time, I think when you're more mindful of it, you kind of sit back and you're like, that person's fucking miserable. Like, I don't want anything to do with that person.
I think most people don't care. I think most people really don't care about you or what you're doing. And that can be a good thing. Like you're just free to do whatever. Mm-hmm. Some people are obsessed with you and like love everything that you're doing, but they're like love this version of you. So maybe they're like your fans, but that can be kind of a negative thing too. And then other people will just always hate you, you know. But you know, it is what it is. You just kind of got to figure out how to get used to it. I'm, you know, hopefully, you know, as this takes off, I'll probably deal with that more and more. You'll probably deal with that more and more. But hopefully you just kind of grow with it and figure out how to deal with it as it goes.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing with social media. Like I'm trying to lean into more is like, dude, just literally just act how you would in real life. Yeah. But the people I talk to on there, like I try to talk how I would talk like right now, like you and I, you know what I mean? Like, it's a weird place, social media, but like I think the more you stay like true to your ideas and like yourself, I think you're good.
One last point. I think there's a certain amount of people in powerlifting and on social media who have very poor social skills.
It's, man, the fitness community, yeah, dude, it's just, I think in general, dude, like I think the fitness community has like some of the best and like just some of the fucking worst people out there. And that's like anything. Yeah. That's any industry. You're gonna find really dope people and you're gonna find fucking scumbags. Yeah. And it's just the nature of the beast. But yeah, that is a funny note that you say about the powerlifting community. Like I think it's, I would say it's a lot of the fitness community, honestly. But yeah. No, that's right. It's a whole different conversation. But all right. Yeah.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Yeah.